Welcome into another episode. I'm really excited to be joined today by someone who's been integral to one of the breakout teams, not just of the Big Ten, but in the country this year, the Minnesota Gophers. And that's Amaya Battle. Amaya, first and foremost, appreciate you making the time. Second of all, how are you doing?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. Super excited, and I'm doing pretty good right now. Pretty smooth Friday so far. How about
Yeah.
you?
I'm good. I was telling you before we hopped on, I was in Alabama visiting my sister after I covered Dewana Bonner's jersey retirement this weekend. And the transition from Alabama to coming back to the Midwest is like it's
It's
something
got to be
different.
hard.
Like it's like I don't know, it's the kind of thing people like I don't know, like especially for me. I didn't think about it all the time too until I started traveling as much. I travel like every other week pretty much.
Mhm.
And I can only imagine like traveling as often as you guys do because I tore my meniscus when I was in high school. I don't even remember what I did. It's been that long, but like literally, I take a plane ride and I changed by 20 degrees, and my knee is off the entire next day because of
Really?
like yeah, because of like the weather change and like even just like the pressure difference and everything. Like, and I was talking to this with Kiki often the other day because they went and they did the Colorado Utah road trip, and that's
Mhm.
just like that's an entirely other thing, but.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about 20 games in now, sophomore year, how are you feeling? How is the team feeling? It's been a very fun season to watch from the outside for sure.
Well, first off, I can't believe we're 20 games in. I actually didn't know
Right?
until you said that.
It's just I
Yeah,
think it's yeah, I think it'll be 20 after the next game. I think it's 19 right now technically, but
that's
close
that's
enough.
crazy. It's flown
Right?
by. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm doing well. You kind of hit this part where you're kind of tired, body's starting to break down a little bit, and but you just got to keep pushing. And we started school this past week, so it was or last week, so it was kind of hard. But I'm doing good, like mentally and physically, and I think as a team we're doing good too. It's kind of like we're at the point in the season where everything is foundational. Like you kind of know what you are, your role, what you do, and it's just a matter of how much you put into that role because it all matters. But yeah, I can't believe we're 20 games in. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, it feels like we were just in
Crazy.
non-con. Like
Yeah.
once we hit Thanksgiving, everything just hits the fan. Like it's
hmm
crazy. Because even like for me, like I try and watch everything. But if you have like a random 3 hours that gets mucked up, it's like, well, I might not catch this game that I missed until next week because that's when I'll
Right.
maybe have time to do it. So, it's just
hmm
it makes it exciting for sure. Especially too like looking at this year, and where you guys are at. We mentioned a little bit off the pod, but talking about the defensive tone that you guys have set. Like obviously you could see some of the bones of that last year, but I think off rip this season, the first game I watched you guys, I was like, oh, okay, this is like for real defense. Um, I guess backtracking a little bit, what was it like when Dawn came in, and setting that tone right away? Like, when did you kind of first feel like, all right, we're going to be a team that makes our living on the defense? But obviously does a lot of great stuff offensively, but it feels like, everything I've watched, listened to, defense, defense, defense.
Yeah. Well, that spring when she came in, we focused primarily on offense. We didn't have a lot of time because you get done around like end of April for finals.
Yeah.
Um, so it was primarily offense, but she did say that she is a stickler for defense. And then once we had everybody back in the summer, we started working on it. But I would say it really wasn't until like to around the 20-hour rule, you really like we really were like, oh yeah, we have to play defense. Like there's no other option.
Mhm.
Especially October, like that whole month leading up until first games. And she's still honest about our defense. Like it's always defense. But yeah, I that tone was definitely set. Definitely understanding like looking at the teams she's coached, like they're super defensive minded. Their defense is great. And she just always has a bunch of little like tips and tricks too that can help you on the defensive end where I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that. And yeah, but she's a super defensive minded coach.
What's maybe been the biggest thing that you picked up from her this year defensively?
So she really just harps on seeing the ball, which for me was weird because, when you play defense, it's like watch their stomach or like waistband or whatever,
Mhm.
and then it's kind of just like make sure you're between your person and the basket, like keep your head on a swivel, see the ball, but don't lose your man. But Donnie P is just like, no, just watch the ball. Like that's like the ball is where everything's happening. And so with that, we're starting to understand how to get tips because like say somebody's throwing a skip pass, but like you're in the middle of that skip pass. If you see the ball, you can who's to say you can't come jump up and get it. So I think seeing the ball is like it's really simple, and I'm like, oh, I never even thought I could do this in basketball. And it's kind of, and that's like what her tips and tricks are like. It's always like something really simple and just kind of something for at least for me, I wasn't taught or like goes against what I was taught, but it works and it's so cool. So I love it.
Yeah, no, it's kind of cool hearing that because I feel like it's something that, when you put that together and watching, like it very much stands out and watch you guys play. I feel like deflections aren't like a super easy stat to get access to, but I imagine you guys would be very close to tops in the country with that.
And then
That's-
the deflections add up. Like if you tip a pass and your teammate's late, like that tip can help them get there on time, or it can mess up the timing of the offense. Like it's so cool. It's interesting. I didn't
yeah.
even realize how important they were.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because I think like I was talking about this with somebody the other day, but I feel like so often, and I get it like from a fan standpoint, but often like people are like, oh well, steals and blocks, like that's defense. And yeah, but I think what makes the great defenses and defenders is like everything that leads up to why they get a steal and a block. And I
Right.
think that's what stood out with you guys this year. Like the way that you're able to carry teams deeper and deeper into possessions than they want to go is like that's what makes a great defense. Like if you can make teams have to go through five, six different offensive progressions before they get a shot that they even feel comfortable with, like that's good defense. And that stood
Well,
out a ton this year.
thanks.
Yeah, no,
I
of
have to
course.
tell Donnie P we have a fan of our defense.
Oh my God, no, honestly off rip. Like I'm not trying to quote, but I think I wrote about it like probably 2 or 3 weeks in the season. I was like, because you guys, I don't know if you remember, but you were like first in the country in defensive rating for like the first
We
like
were, yeah.
yeah,
And I was
first eight
like,
or
there's
eight
no
or nine
way.
games of the season. And I wrote then, I was like, are they going to finish number one in the country? They haven't hit the meet of the schedule yet, so probably not. But this is the top 25 defense in the country, and you still are currently. So,
Oh, we are?
yeah, it's right up,
Oh, nice.
especially if you adjust it for like schedule. Yeah, you're like, I think 17th right now. So
Shoot, I'll take that.
pretty good. Yeah. Especially talking about your individual game as well, too. I know that you're somebody who has worked on your shot a lot, and been very open about that. And I know for some players it can be really difficult, but I wanted to ask with you, like you mentioned, you have gone through like 3 or 4 different shots.
Yeah.
And how do you kind of stay on top of that? Because I know even for some players, like just changing up your shot once can be like jarring. So what has that progression been like? Because it has been cleaner this year. You've hit more, you're taking more, you seem a lot more confident with it. So
Mhm.
what has that progression been like for you? And when did you kind of first know like, all right, I need to rework it again?
Yeah, so I've definitely changed my shot like 4 times. One was on accident. But when I was younger,
Wait, okay, hold
I
on.
shot.
How do you change your shot
So
on accident?
when my freshman year I of college, I didn't shoot, or before my freshman year of college, I didn't always shoot like behind my head.
Yeah.
Like that just happened. And yeah, that's just a whole nother story. So then I had to like change that too, so that counts. That's why it's on accident. But um when I was younger, like really young, I want to say like middle school grade-ish, maybe like seventh, sixth grade, I
Mhm.
shot two-handed. So I would like push the ball and like go like that. And you can't really shoot two-handed. So I had to change that. So there's one. And then I had to I can't even remember what I had in my other shot, but then going into my senior year of high school, I had to change my shot again. And that was probably like my best form ever, besides now. It's the what I have now is what I had in senior year of high school. And then coming into college is when like I gained that hitch. And I think I
Mhm.
got it because I wasn't a very confident like 3-point shooter, especially even in high school. And then you come in and then that line's moved back further. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I have to compensate somehow. Like I'm not going to be able to get the ball there. Like that was all mental for me because I definitely am strong enough and was strong enough to get it there without having to do that. So that happened. Then I had to change it again. But yeah, I've been through quite a few. So this last time after freshman season, this change was I would actually say it was kind of easier because I knew the process and I knew
Yeah.
like what to do at this point. Like I didn't have to, for example, like Demondi, he's really helped me with my shot. I didn't have to go into him like every day because I knew what to do, and then I'd like come and check in on him or check up with him. Um, Rachel helped me a lot. Our old manager Marty helped me a lot. When Donnie P and when the staff when they came in, they helped me a lot. Mara helped me, my dad, like everybody helped me. But it's definitely when you're younger, it's a hard process, especially when you're younger because I feel like maybe you're not mentally prepared for that and you want the results right away. and you're like trying to change your shot in the summer and you're playing AAU and you're like, I can't even shoot, like how am I gonna play? So
Yeah.
it can be frustrating, but I think like by this time when I did it, I was in a good headspace. I understood. I definitely still had my moments though, don't get me wrong, and I still do have my moments sometimes, but definitely an easier process.
What are the things that kind of like ground you in your shot? Because I think one of the hardest things, like people can, rep out a shot as many times as they want, but as soon as you get back into a game, you can kind of revert a little bit if that's what you're used to doing. So like what things do you do or maybe focus on to keep that form up?
It's really just for me, like getting the ball straight up. And even now, I don't always get the ball straight up. Like I'll push it out. And so that's why my shot can be flat. But getting it straight up, getting my hand behind the ball. And right now, I'm like kind of having a debate because in practice, if I catch a shot, like I'll find the seams to shoot it. But then in a game, I don't find the seams to shoot it. So it's like
Yeah.
you need to figure out what you're gonna do. But definitely just shooting the ball straight up, hand behind the ball, and then my legs. Like I'll, to me, it'll be like I bent and went the lowest I could, and then everybody's like, "No, you didn't." So I need to get lower, and definitely my feet. That's one thing. Donnie P and the staff have really preached to me, like getting your feet set and being balanced, which is something I'm definitely still working on, but I've improved since they've came. So those are like three or four things that I kind of ground myself in.
Well, you definitely had your feet set in balance to close the game against Nebraska. So when you talk about that as kind of like a full circle moment, obviously a huge shot to win a game. I'm sure you've had plenty of those throughout your career, but especially when you talk about, gravity, that moment where it was at in the Big Ten. Um, what was that feeling like for you getting to have that?
It was well, when I shot it, I like didn't fully understand how important that shot was. Like to me, it was like the shot clock is winding down. You just need to pull it.
Yeah.
And like before, I knew we were up one and there was like 30 some seconds left on the clock. But when I shot it, that is not what I was thinking about. So in a way, I like didn't really have a sense of what was going on. Which I think really helped me
Yeah.
because like self our post was like when you caught the ball, you had this glazed look, and I was like, I knew it was going in. Kind of like I was just like in the moment, like I wasn't freaking out thinking about it. And then after I remember I like told my dad, I was like, Dad, I didn't realize that how big or how important of a shot that was. But it was cool. Like it was cool to see that I had the confidence to shoot that, and I had the confidence because of all the work that I put in and the people have helped me put in. And it was just yeah, it's cool to reflect on, but it happened, so it's in the
Yeah.
past now. But it was a fun moment.
No, for sure. I love that. And I think you hit on it without even realizing it. Like not thinking about it is like the biggest thing. Like the fact that you can get there stands out. And I think it's funny too, because you can look at so many people like some of the best shots that people who maybe aren't like comfortable with their shot at hit are when it's like clock winding down. You just have to get it up. Like I'll never forget. I don't know if you watch much of the NBA, but I think it was like 2012 and he was still at the Clippers, but DeAndre Jordan hit like a 30-footer because there was like half a second left on the clock and he was trailing. So it was like, just random stuff like that. It's funny how the game works.
Hmm.
Speaking on other improvements too, I know you've talked a lot this season about improving as a passer, and I think you've done it in a way that is really difficult, but so that's what's made it stand out. Like you have gotten more aggressive as a passer while also cutting down turnovers. What was, and I know you've mentioned too, like working a lot, work like looking through film and seeing, how to kind of attack gaps. But what was your biggest focus for you? Because again, I feel like sometimes when people are like, well, I need to cut down my turnovers, they can become less aggressive
Hmm.
and you need to be aggressive enough to make a defense care. So what was that focus like for you this summer?
It was really just cutting down turnovers. What do I have to do to do that? And Donnie P gave like preaches us like get to 2 feet when you pass, check your pass, all these little things. But then also it took her, it didn't take her a while. It took me a while to understand because she would always say like you need to be aggressive to open up your passing lanes. Like if you're aggressive and you drive to score, what you really want to do is pass will open up. And it took me, I want to say probably not till the fall to actually be like, oh, yeah. Like I just hear it and I'd be like, okay, and then it really clicked. So, um, understanding that I need to look for like my points and drive aggressively and look for my buckets will open it up for my teammates. Like even if I don't go in planning to score. If I look like I'm going in planning to score, I can open things up. And that's what Donnie P's helped me with. I watch a lot of film with Aaron too, and he helps me read defenses, understand our opponent's coverages, so I know like if I do this, they'll do that, and just reading the layers of defense and stuff too. So there's been a lot of it's kind of just understanding the game more and looking at it to slow it down a little bit. And I think also it comes with experience, like freshman year of college, I'm throwing passes that I could get away with in high school, and in college, it's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that's gone into it, but I just think the things that Donnie P and the staff have helped me with is probably what's helped me the most.
No, I like that. Is there maybe like one or two things that you picked up on the most this summer watching film that like changed up for you?
Well, we weren't really allowed to watch film individually till the 20-hour rule, but
Hmm.
we would talk through, me and Aaron would like talk through stuff. And I think like just understanding different looks and reads. So like before, if I came off a ball screen, I'm just like, I'm gonna hit the roller or I'm gonna score. But now it's like, no, you could have the like behind kid, the diagonal skip if that person sinks in. You could have the ahead kid if that person comes in. So just understanding there's so many more options and like just slowing down and being able to read those options, which is another thing is like I need to get better at slowing down. I feel like I've gotten better, but there's definitely still a lot of room to improve on that. Just slowing down and seeing the game more, and that way you can really just make quick reads.
Yeah, no, it's funny because it sounds like so counterintuitive, but the best way to speed up is to slow down most of the time. So it's like,
And
figuring
yeah,
that out is easier said than done. But yeah.
and Donnie P, like she came in and was preaching like we need to slow down, and in my head I'm like, what do you mean? Like we're playing basketball, like we need to go. But I get it. You have to slow down. You have to play at your own pace.
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, no, like you, I mean, it definitely has shown that you're starting to find that this year. So that's been really fun to watch. In terms of talking about the team as a whole too, I think part of what's been really fun, like obviously you guys have really clicked this year, but this is still an extremely young group. Like I think if I have it written down correctly, yeah, 7 out of the 10 rotation players are freshmen and sophomores. So
Yeah.
like in terms of that growth standpoint, like finding I mean, everybody is a leader in their own way for sure, but like, what has that been like kind of carrying on that leadership? Because I know like you, Mara, the entire freshman class from last year like really came in wanting to take this program in a new direction. So what has that been like? Sort of that like growth curve over the last year and a half.
Yeah, the growth curve is it's big, especially because Donnie P demands a lot from us, and
Hmm.
you know all of us are kind of freshmen or new in our own way because none of us have played under Donnie P before. But I think those of us that have been there, we have the just college basketball experience, understanding that there's going to be highs and lows in the season, but you can't go high with it and you can't go low with it. You have to just stay in the middle because there's always another game and there's always like another thing that can happen. So understanding there's going to be moments in the season and then just like kind of preaching that to the younger ones, the freshmen or the people who, yeah, the freshmen, the new ones. I think that's a big thing. But also just I like one thing we've all said, and I think it's just being vulnerable and just being like, hey, we also don't know what's going on. Like we also haven't played for Donnie P and we're still young. So just being okay knowing you don't know, but sharing what you do know to the people who do is very important. And even we have like upperclassmen like Nay. She's what is Nay, like a fifth, sixth year? Fifth year. Although she hasn't played in the Big Ten or played under Donnie P either, she still has that college basketball experience. And so she still has input or insight that we can lean into. So there's a lot that's gone into it.
Yeah. Was there a moment last year that was maybe like your kind of welcome to the Big Ten moment where you realize like, oh wow. Because I think like especially for somebody who's as talented as you are, not just to gas you up, but you're clearly a very talented player. Like I think
Thanks.
especially in non-con when you play against like maybe some teams who are lower mid majors, like okay, you can skate by being an
Mhm.
athlete and a sick basketball player. But then you get to the Big Ten, it's like, oh, this is a little bit different. So what
Yeah.
was like your first moment that you had last year that was like, okay, wow, this is gonna be, there's a lot to learn here still.
I would say definitely the Penn State game. That might have been our first Big Ten game last year too. Um, because that went into like double overtime and that was a fight. Like everybody was working hard. They were doing the best they could do. We were doing the best we could do, and it still went down to double OT. So understanding like what it takes to even just compete in the Big Ten is just that was a great welcoming. And but how my body felt after I was so tired. Actually, the first welcome to college basketball was after the first game. And I was like, because usually after a game, you might get the day off or have a lighter practice.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you don't need that. Because in high school, you play and you practice normal the next day, you know? It's just like, why do we do that? And after our first game, like the next day, I was so tired. My body was so like sore. And I was like, oh, this is different. Like, this is different.
Yeah.
So that would be a welcome to college basketball. But Big Ten would definitely be the Penn State game. And then I think just playing really experienced and veteran teams like Indiana, we played them this year as well, but last year, or even like Michigan, because they run their system very well and they do it to a T. Like you can know what they're gonna do and they're still gonna do it, or they know how to counter whatever you're gonna do to them. So just playing really experienced and veteran teams in the Big Ten as well has always been a welcome because it's like, oh wow, like I want to do that here too. Like
Yeah.
this is gonna be us.
Yeah, especially as you mentioned Michigan, exactly like you said, I feel like you can scout and game plan them all you want, but they always have five players on the court that can post up, that can
Hmm.
pass, and can drive the basketball. And
Hmm.
that is hell to play against for 40 minutes. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely like you mentioned, it's a learning curve. Um, again, backtracking a little bit too, mentioning coming here to Minnesota with the class that you did. Um, what made you guys want to stay when Dawn came in? Like, what was it like getting to meet her and the new staff at first, and what kind of sold you guys on really wanting to stay in Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, we came in under Coach Way. Love Coach Way. Love everything she did for us in the program, coaching and playing. But at the end of the day, like we committed to Minnesota, we committed to the school, and we said what we wanted to do for women's basketball, at Minnesota. So regardless, like of who is the coach, we still want to do what we said we were going to do for the school, for the program. So I think that's a big reason as to why we stayed, and we obviously haven't done it yet. So we want to keep working towards that. Um, and meeting Donnie P, I remember there was like a Twitter leak, I think, on who our coach was.
Yeah, I
And we
remember
were
that
like,
day.
yeah, we were like, oh my gosh, this is her. And I had no clue who she was. I've never heard of her. I think Mara and Mal, Nia knew her because she was recruited by Nia or she was recruiting Nia in high school. I think Mara and Mal maybe have heard of her. I can't remember. Uh, and so we were like trying to get a hold of our AD and be like, is this true? Is this true? And then it came out that it was true. And then we literally like met her that same day. Like that evening they called a last minute team meal. So it was like those of us left and then our families could come. And she was there. And before we did that, like I think there was what, seven of us left at this point,
Yeah,
sat in the locker room with her and like talked to her for like, I want to say 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just getting to know her, just asking her random questions, anywhere from like, what defense are we gonna play to like what kind of music do you like? So it was just super random. It was great. And then we came and had dinner and talked to her. And then she talked to all of our families and we all met her. So it was a good day. It was a good day. She gave off great vibes.
that's
She had a
awesome.
lot of energy. That's the first thing you notice is her energy, and that's the first thing I picked up on.
Yeah, no, it's good to get that background too, because like you mentioned, the Twitter leak was like so random and out of nowhere. It was
Yeah.
like middle of the day. I remember seeing that. I
Yeah.
was like, this is like what? So that's
Hmm.
completely out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, okay, so when did Donnie P come about?
Okay, so when we heard her name, like Don Plitzuweit, I was like, I'm not gonna call her Coach Plitzuweit. And then Coach Don is cool. But I just put it together. Like I make
Yeah,
random nicknames for people. You can ask my teammates. Like I'll just make random nicknames for people. And I was just like Donnie P, and it just stuck. So I remember on the way, me, Mal, and Nia and Mara were walking to meet Donnie P in the locker room, and I was like, should I ask her if I can call her Donnie P? Cause because it was just stuck to me. It was stuck at that point.
yeah.
Um, and so in the meeting, I asked her. I was like, can I call you Donnie P? And she's like, sure. And it's stuck. And I think some people do. And some people call her Coach Don or whatever, but I call her Donnie P. Yeah.
I love that. That's incredible. I want to ask too, when you look at what the offseason was too, going to Croatia, catching up on all the vlogs and everything was very cool. It seemed like a great time. What was that like for you guys? What were maybe some of your biggest takeaways and even, on or off court from getting to have that trip together?
Yeah, that trip was so much fun. And I remember I was like kind of nervous and I didn't really want to go before because I've never gone overseas, like
Yeah.
across the ocean, and I wasn't gonna be with my family or anything for 10 days. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like whatever. And we got there and it was so much fun. And I think for me, some of the biggest takeaways were like how beautiful of an earth God created. Like it is so pretty over there, and He made all that, and it was gorgeous. Also another big takeaway was like, my dad and people have always preached like basketball can take you wherever you want to go, like can take you across the world. And at that point, I'm like, it's taken me to Iowa for AAU. Like, it hasn't taken me anywhere special. Like, I'm like, whatever you say. And then after that, I was like, basketball can take me places. And after that trip, since that trip, I've had this motivation to play. Like, I want to play overseas now just because of that
Yeah.
trip. So that takeaway is just like, just all that there is in the world and like all that he did and created for us. But as a team, we had so much fun. Like, we were hanging out with each other, and it was cool because you were assigned roommates, and so like you would hang out with teammates that maybe you didn't know as well before. Like I feel like we all became closer and we all got to know each other more outside of like our roommate or whoever we usually hang out with. And it was so much fun. And then it was obviously our first time to play basketball. So first time playing against other people together. First time Donnie P was able to coach us. It was a great experience. I loved it all. I would go back. It was so much fun.
Yeah, no, it seemed like a blast. And
Mhm.
that ties into it too. I know you are big in doing photography. And obviously you did a lot of the vlogs over the summer when you guys were in Croatia. How did that start up for you? Because I know obviously like you do a lot of stuff with like you've done stuff with the football team, you've done stuff just in general.
Yeah.
What is that like? How did you kind of first get involved with that?
Yeah. Like with photography.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've been into it since probably my senior year of high school, but I never truly invested and I never like got a camera. But I was really into just I literally have a Snapchat memory of me saying like I want to take aesthetically pleasing pictures. And so it started with that. Like I just want to take pictures, so I would just ooh, there's a pretty sunset, let me take a picture. Oh, I like how this looks, let me take a picture on my phone. Fast forward to May, May, so end of my freshman year this past spring. I finally invested and got my first camera. It's a film camera. It's a Canon AE1. And so I was just like learning how to use all of it. Like I didn't have any knowledge. I didn't know what an aperture was. I didn't know what shutter speed was. I didn't know what ISO was. I didn't know what any of that was. And it's a film camera too, so all of that you have to like control and figure out yourself. Which I think really helped me at the end of the day. So I was having fun with that. And fell in love with it. I was going through rolls of film like every day. It was
Yeah.
crazy. Then I got a digital camera, and then I wanted to start shooting sports because like I'm an athlete. I like when people take pictures of me when I play. Like, let me try it. And at this time, there was Pro Am, which is just like a little local summer league event. It's actually big, and a lot of people who are from Minnesota, like whether they played in the NBA overseas, like Tides comes back and plays and all that stuff, or like Legend MN Hoopers come. It's super fun. So I would go there and I would take pictures there, had a bunch of fun, and then I started trying to photograph people like portraits. Started doing that, got a couple people to do that or let me do that for them. Then I got a new camera because the one I was using was like a Canon Rebel. It's a good camera, but like you can only do so much with it. And a good friend of mine ended up giving me a great deal on a Canon Mark 3 Pro, whatever, which is like a great camera. So I've been using that. And that's when I really started to grow and do more. And then school came, and I remember Trent, you were there. Me and Mara had an interview with the school paper, and it was about my photography. And then he was like, "We could use photographers at the paper," and I was like, "What? No way!"
That's
And
sick.
then I interviewed, applied, whatever, got it. So then through the daily, that's how I've gotten to work with the football team and do men's basketball. I want to do hockey. I'll end up doing hockey at some point, and from there, a bunch of opportunities have grown. But yeah, that's really the story. It really just started off as like a growing passion to just take pictures, and then I just kind of found the time and I did it.
That's so cool. I like
Hmm.
that. And what is your biggest camera mishap? because I have one for you as well. But yeah, what is your biggest camera mishap?
I have a couple. So one, I didn't insert a roll of film
Oh
correctly.
no.
So that whole and the pictures would have been great. I promise you. It was a great day. We went around Stone Arch. So that whole roll was like gone. Didn't work. Um, but then another time, I so I'll have like 5 rolls of film with me, and then I'll forget like did I shoot on this film? So I accidentally shot double exposures, but it turned out super cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a mishap. I'm gonna say I meant to do that, but it was really fun. But I have a bunch. I've definitely like yesterday I was shooting at a basketball game and I was like, why won't my like balance like what's it called? Exposure balance like even out. And I was so
Mhm.
confused for like 5 minutes and my lens cap was on. I'm like, oh my God.
That's
What's going on? So I
yeah.
have a bunch of like little ones like that. But yeah, let me hear yours.
Oh no, I thought I was gonna skate by. Yeah, no, I had my very first like big project I had to do when I first so I went all over the place for college. I went to Michigan State first because I grew up in Cleveland. I went to Michigan State. And then I was working completely different stuff there before I got into journalism. But then I ended up at University of Toledo to finish out school. And I kind of ended up in communications slash journalism on a whim. And so I had to take a videography class and I got like a really cool interview set up. It was for some I can't remember what the fundraiser was right now because it was 3 or 4 years ago, but um I got like an interview set up with like the person who set it up. It was dope. We talked for like 20 minutes and I'd spent like the entire half hour before I checked everything, made sure all the balance was right, made sure that, like I did everything that you need to do to make sure that everything looked perfect. I mean, my mic was set up, everything was good. And then she walks away and I like after about 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, let me go. I'm gonna go like start like looking through my edits and stuff and try and figure out, what I want to pull from this most. I'd never hit record. So
That's the worst.
I had to
No.
yeah, and I had 3 days left to do the project. So then I had to completely scrap that and find just I don't even remember what I ended up doing for the project, but I had to like find something completely new to do and shoot within like the next day and a half. And I learned very quickly, I was like, I don't want to work with cameras ever.
Yeah,
So
never again.
yeah, that was a very quick end to my video journey. But yeah, it makes it exciting for sure.
At
Um,
least you gave it a shot. That's hilarious,
yeah.
though. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it happens, you learn. Like I think like a regular camera will be fine, but like doing the entire video setup is like
It's
it's
a lot.
it's a lot, and it's so much too. Like you have to. I'll never forget. I had to like go check out the camera from like the video department, and it's like a 30-minute process to get all your stuff, and
Oh
like and
wow.
then you have to go set it up, and it's just everybody's looking at you. It's like, why do you have this giant video camera at our fundraiser event? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
very hard to blend in here, but I'm trying my
Yeah.
best. That's really awesome that you can have that though, as just something that you enjoy. Because I feel like, especially for a lot of people, like even like for me when I was an athlete coming up, I really struggled to do anything outside my sport. So it's cool that you're able to have that as something where you're like, I feel like in some ways having something that is a focus outside of your sport helps you stay focused on it in some ways too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Being able to have an outlet. I mean, I've always it's yeah, like I said, it's kind of been hard, like as an athlete, student athlete, to find time outside your sport to do anything. Because a lot like before I would like just lay in my bed and watch Netflix, which
Yeah,
is cool, but you want to go out and like do something, like walk around or whatever. So experience new things. And photography is like my excuse to do that. Um, so I love it. And like yeah, being able to have an outlet, being able to do something outside of basketball allows me to devote all my time and attention and focus into basketball when I'm in that setting.
I love it. All right, a couple more things I want to get into before we wrap up. First and foremost, I feel like Minnesota is just an underrated state, underrated place. My uncle lived in Minneapolis for a while,
That's what I'm saying.
and I love the Twin Cities. I had a
Mhm.
blast anytime I got to go out and see them. So give us your pitch for why Minnesota should be higher ranked in places to be.
I think just the things we have, there's so much. People don't believe me, but there's so much you can do here. Like the lakes, so much fun. there's this place called the Quarries or the Quarries, and it's like it's not man-made, but like it eroded, and so there's a bunch of like rock walls or whatever, and you can
Yeah.
jump off them into water, into lakes and stuff. So much fun. Minneapolis is like full of a lot of different cultures and groups of people, and like if you love food, that's perfect. There's so many different types of restaurants. There's also so many different types of events. I think we just have a little bit of everything, and I love our farmers market. It's amazing. I think it's just there's always something you can do here, even in the winter, because you can go. Except this winter, we haven't had a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Go snowing, go tubing. There's light shows. I love the light shows. There's like this ice castle event thing. There's just so much you can do here, and I the people are nice too. I love the people here because like you can always stop and like ask questions because even I live here and I don't know where to go all the time, so
Mhm.
I can stop and ask people questions on like what I should do, where should I go, and people always have something to tell you to try or whatever. But there's sites you can see. You can go see the Cherry and the Spoon. There's arts, like art festivals, art museums. I mean, I could keep going. There's just so much you could do. I
Yeah.
love it.
No, I agree. I think like you mentioned, I feel like people like just think of like Big Ten schools and like, oh, it's just cold all the time. I'm like,
Yeah, they think
not
it's like in the
really.
middle of
Like,
nowhere.
it's not. Okay, Purdue though. Purdue is in the middle
Yeah,
of nowhere.
that's
That's
true. I'll give you
West
that.
Lafayette is not a real town. It's just a college. But respect to Purdue. But yeah, no. But no, exactly. I think one of my favorite parts about like being at Big Ten schools, like you learn where people are from just by watching because like I'll never forget when I was a freshman at Michigan State. It's like, I mean, shoot, when it's I went out to Stanford last year to do a feature on Haley Jones, and I think it was like the week before Christmas, and it was like 45 or 50 out, and I was walking around in shorts and a hoodie, and like everybody's like staring at me like, "What's wrong with you?" And it's the same thing when you're at a Big Ten school. If it's 50 out, I'm wearing shorts and a hoodie, man.
Yeah,
Like,
like this
and
fall,
like,
yes.
and I see like the first day when it's sub 60, like this one girl that was in I was in a sports geography class, which I don't know how to explain that class. Super dope. If
That
you ever
sounds
get a chance to take
interesting
sports
though.
geography, very cool.
Yeah.
But she wore a parka when it was like 58 out. And I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, you're
that's
from
what I'm
Florida."
saying.
She was like, "Yeah, I am from Gainesville." So it's like, you
Hmm.
learn a lot. But yeah. And I mean, I guess yeah, to close out too now. I think we've hit on it a little bit, but in terms of like things that you really want to accomplish and do moving forward, both this season and moving forward, as an individual and as a team, what are you really looking forward to?
Just looking forward to the run we're gonna have in these last like 10 or 11 Big Ten games. And then I'm excited to see what we do with postseason. I have really big like aspirations. I think we can do a lot. Um, Individually, I just want to continue to improve as a player, as a leader for my teammates. And my biggest goal, like ever, I want to break the assist record at the school. It's 633, so I just need 634. But I'm really just excited to see where we end up as a team because I feel like sometimes people still look at us and they're just like, oh, it's just Minnesota. Like, it's still that team from last year that was like 9 and whatever. But we're different this year. And I can't wait to continue to improve and show the people like who we are and what we can do.
No, I'm excited for it. I think you guys have continued to put out statements. Like I think especially that one against Michigan State. Michigan State is very good this year. So like beating them by 19 is not a fluke. It was a really good game from you guys. Continue to, and like you mentioned too, like there are no off nights in the Big Ten. Every single game is
Hmm.
difficult. Every single team, like I think part of what's so fun too about college basketball, like every team in the Big Ten plays a different style. Like
Yeah, that's so
it's
true.
so it's really different to see what each game plan is going to be like, who matches up with who. But no, Amaya, I'm really excited to watch what you guys continue to do. I agree. I feel like there's a lot that you guys can continue to do this year, both in and outside the Big Ten, and excited to see you cross that assist record eventually. I'll keep 634 in the back of my mind for sure.
Yes, please do. Thanks for having me again and
Yeah, of
thanks for
course.
following us.
Most definitely. Thanks for making the time. To everyone listening, thank you for listening. Keep up with all things Minnesota basketball. And most importantly, have a great rest of your day. And lastly, of course, go listen to Amaya Mara's pod.
Yeah.
You guys just took that over like last month, correct?
Wait, we did one for like the school, but then we have a team one too. But we haven't
The
done the
team one
team
start.
one.
Yeah, I was gonna say the team one hasn't. hasn't happened
Yeah,
yet,
we
has
haven't
it?
done it. It'll probably end up happening in the spring. It got
Okay.
season started and yeah,
Well, we'll be
started
on the
training.
lookout. I'll have the link for the Golden Gophers YouTube page. It'll be down below. But again, most importantly, have a great rest of your day.